Hello, welcome to Shooting Spitballs. This is the podcast where we drag under the microscope a whole manner of real-world video production scenarios, and then we figure out how to handle them when the unexpected hits on set. My name's Martin from Shot and Strong Films, and after years of shooting in all kinds of tricky situations, I'm here to pass on what I've learnt to new emerging video shooters that are looking for real, honest, practical advice. Advice that's going to help them stay sharp and adapt fast when things take a turn for the worst on set, which they often will do, believe me. In today's episode, we're joined by two experts behind the lens, Frank Hammond and James Travis. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into how to shoot a two-person fireside chat at a yoga studio, because nothing says inner peace like hiding a boom mic behind a Himalayan salt lamp. And obviously we've got a few red herrings included. Wouldn't want things to go too well. Alright, let's get into it. So, if you're wondering who's with me, shall I let them introduce themselves? Who shall I start with first?
Please.
See?
Yeah, we're both too polite. So I'm James. I run a production company, but I'm mostly a solo shooter called Travis Digital in the southeast.
Called Travis Digital, but your name is not Travis.
Yes, I'm James Travis.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so not that creative, unfortunately.
Interesting.
And I've never met you before, have I, James?
No.
So I just pulled you in off the street?
Yeah, we feel like minor celebrities to each other, because we've followed each other on Instagram for like years, and we've occasionally spoken but never actually met. So,
No. Is this the start of something more than...
It was a sweet moment.
Yeah.
It was.
Earlier.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Why am I here?
Slimmer.
I just feel like I'm intruding.
Yeah.
Enough of you, James. Right. Frank, introduce yourself.
As Martin has said, my name is Frank, and I'm a DOP and lighting gaffer person based in Surrey, and I do some work in London. Also travel to New York a lot, do some bits and bobs in New York as well. And yeah, that's me. Oh, I also own a lighting rental company. That's probably important as well, isn't it? So yeah, I do lighting stuffs, renting those lights out, sometimes going with those lights and showing people how those lights work, mainly by setting them up for them in exchange for financial pluseries, which I don't think is a word, but it is now.
Good at capitalism.
That's me.
Right then, shooting spitballs. What the hell is shooting spitballs? We are basically spitballing about shooting, I guess. But yeah, it feels like it's an American name.
Well, spitballs are the things you stick in
Spitballs?
straws, aren't they?
Also,
Yeah.
because you were going to throw a couple of curveballs.
There you go, that's probably why. That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That's chatting
That could be
curveballs.
chatting curveballs.
Batting curveballs. Yes.
Chucking curveballs?
Anyway, you get
Just
the
an
gist.
underhand throw, if that's all right. Just a few times.
Okay, you
Change
ready,
the
Frank?
delicate.
We're going to go into our first scenario.
Oh, that's my job. Bonk.
Boom!
Whoa.
Okay, we are in what seems to be a local village hall, would you say? Would that be a fair assumption?
I would say it's a rich person's annex.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, that's
Very rich.
I'm
yeah,
getting
very
chakra
wealthy.
vibes
Yeah.
from the strange symbolic circle thing.
I'm getting lived in Thailand for 2 months in their mid-20s.
Older couple because of the radiators, I think.
True. Yeah.
This is for like a different podcast about like true crime or something, like figuring out who the profiling these people. But yeah,
So, yeah, why are we here? Basically, you've been asked to do a two-person interview with a yoga teacher who owns this space. Or maybe she hires it. Who knows? She hasn't told us. Yeah, we want to get them in the middle of the room. They want 3 cameras, and we want to use 2 lights. There you go.
2 lights.
How about that?
why do
Yeah.
we want to use 2 lights?
Because the people listening in, they don't have
Right,
a lot of kit.
that's a good point.
So, yeah, we're going to go for a 2-light setup. So who wants to go first? Explain how you would go about.
Are we using our own kit?
You'll be using the kit that you own,
Right.
and tell me they've got budget for you to hire in other cameras.
Okay.
So it's a 3-camera shoot. There's going to be a wide and 2 close-ups, and you only have 2 lights with modifiers. We're going to go to you, James, or do you want to pass it to Frank and you'll come in later?
My answer is going to be slightly less satisfactory.
Put yourself in that village hall.
But I am there. I'm breathing in for 5 seconds and breathing out for 5 seconds.
Cue in some yoga
And then
music.
I'm going to decide what to do, maybe light some candles. But like genuinely, with the candle lighting, maybe even a bit of, I mean, maybe it's not worth it, but maybe even a little bit of haze or like atmosphere to emulate a bit of candle, a bit of essence, whatever you call it, the
chakra.
The chakra. But they have those little candles that they light that creates fragrance or whatever. Incense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think emulating a little bit of incense might be a good idea. A little bit difficult to manage over a long form conversation, but whatever. It will still look good. And then I think maybe because it's 2 people and I've got 2 lights. I mean, one of the things, and you were saying before, it's going to be an overcast day, so probably don't need to worry too much about.
It's midday. The sun's not going down.
Okay, cool. So I'm thinking creating quite a big.
Just so you know,
soft light.
that sort of looks like a Wimbledon dish on the wall.
Oh yeah.
The winners win.
Yeah.
The women. That's their logo. Let's just say that's their logo, and they
Okay.
want that prominently in shot.
Right.
For the wide.
Interesting.
Just so you know.
Because one of the things I'm tempted to do is to say that they should sit on the floor cross-legged or something like that.
Okay.
So that we have this sort of like nice. But I also quite like the beams. But it might be difficult to get the beams in, and then you get the radiators in and stuff. But we could do something like that. The blue's really nice. So having them maybe angled slightly to the camera, but so that they can still talk to each other. And then it would be a bit over stylized, but having the camera quite low, it might be too stylized to get the Wimbledon logo in. Bit strange. I'm confused who these people are, to be honest. But have them sat on the floor. And then, 2 lights. So one of the temptations is you could put something on the ceiling to create, on the beams above to create a bit of an edge light. But maybe that will sort of happen naturally with the sun anyway. So the 2 lights could actually be, we could have a bit of a darker ambience in the room and then have slightly higher exposure on each person, so just a smaller softbox on each person, cross-angled, if you know what I mean. Or you could go for like a nice big, soft, 8x8, and just blast it through, and then it just creates a very soft but slightly higher key vibe. So I'm toying between the 2, and then I would say like lighting, even if they're fake, little candles in the background to create bokeh. So if you go for the low ambient light, creating lots of like little twinkly candle-like things in the background, and it would be nice with the shallow depth of field, or go for a slightly higher key. I don't know if that's cheating because I'm hedging between which would look better. And I don't know if there's enough light to go for a high key. But so either 2 key lights and lower ambience, or does that make sense?
I understand what you're going for there. That's good. The producer from Hell has just entered the building.
I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
He's got a question for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, James. Just got a quick question for you. I don't really want to see the radiators. And I don't really want to make the background. It's a bit boring at the minute. Is there any way you can make it more, sort of, have some more depth to it? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
He sounds great.
No, he sounds all right.
He sounds brilliant.
Yeah. He sounds like I'm a bit resentful because he did talk me down on price, and now he's getting picky. But oh well. So yeah. So in terms of depth, I mean, I'm thinking.
How would you jazz up those close-ups?
Yeah, because I'm thinking we don't want to be so wide that you can see the radiators. So maybe even bringing down the Wimbledon logo.
Are they still sitting on the floor?
I still I quite like the idea of them sitting on the floor.
Well, if you sit them on the floor, that also gives you the option to lose as much of that wall as possible.
Yeah.
In terms of, because if you're thinking about looking along a horizon, if you're bringing the floor up, you're losing the wall.
Yeah.
In that top edge. So the image that we're looking at the moment, if we imagine cropping into that, but then dropping this line and just bringing it up, you're losing some of that wall, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for Mr. Horrible
I think
Producer
it's visually it's quite striking because every podcast, every interview is on a chair or a sofa or whatever. So I think just visually, and it also it's what's the right word? It's on brand, if you like. Mm-hmm. So they're showing off how flexible their hips are, and because I can't sit like a child at assembly for 2 hours straight. So yeah, and then maybe bringing down the logo a bit if that's something that you can do. Obviously there's plants there that we could move into the shot, and as I was saying before, there's even a few pictures on the wall, and I'm sure that they probably have a bit of an art collection if they are who I think they are. So we could maybe put some stuff up there, and as I was saying, if we have it, some twinkly kind of background lights, which I think would be nice.
The hand symbols for twinkly.
When I'm on set, I'm like, could we bring the and then the gaffer will bring
Poundland
fake candles.
is just around the corner, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Great.
Oh, perfect.
Famously, Poundland candles are the brightest of all candles.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. A pound of candles. That's the light output. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Multifaceted joke that was.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Coming in, over to you, Frank. What are your thoughts?
I think the room's nice, and I think that as long as, theoretically, we're shooting during the daytime, there would appear to be a nice amount of ambience that's already sort of giving us as much of the room in terms of, visual nature as possible. The only thing is, it potentially looks a little bit spotty just in terms of, if we're sort of looking at the room in terms of a histogram, we're sort of riding it 80%, and then that drops to about 30, and then we're back up to 60, back down to 30, and then sort of gradually rising towards that 80 again, just as we're seeing outside. And there's a couple of sort of little darker spots within the room. So I think big source lighting is definitely the way to go. So let's say that we're going to pop, basically it's a case of bouncing light off of a wall, off of something. So in my case, that might be like a sort of ultra bounce type material, and then bouncing that light off of that and then putting that through some diffusion to soften it a little bit more. So in this case, that might be a case of on that left-hand window, let's say that wall continues, theoretically, and then sticking a bit of diffusion in front of that and popping a 1200D, bang that into the wall, and that'll give you a nice soft light going in, which I guess would be my key source, if that's allowed.
Yes.
That's allowed, hooray.
Yeah. 1200D, because you need that output, don't you, for a book light?
To bounce anything,
Yeah.
I think that the higher power something is, the better.
Yeah.
I think producer from Hell has just walked in.
Okay.
I wouldn't say producer from Hell. That's a bit of a...
He's doing 2 shoots at the same time on the same location.
Yeah. I'll just say that he had a bad night. He's got a new baby. He's not a bad person.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, you ready, Frank?
Always.
Hey, Frank. Just got a quick question for you. Could you make them... I don't really want the lighting to be really flat. I kind of want some definition. Can you do that for me? And maybe make them sort of pop against the background, make them sort of stand out a bit more. Cheers, mate. You ever watch Ted Lasso?
He's did. Yeah.
Little guy. Yeah.
He's different. He's like the sort of, I don't know, it feels like a strange cousin to your producer. Similar vibe.
Yeah, are they different people? 'Cause,
Very much so, yeah. Very much so.
very much. Okay.
I tried to make them as distinctly different as I could in my
You've
vast repertoire.
You've got quite a lot of range, actually, as a voice.
Why do you think he's got 3 microphones? One for each personality.
Different cables.
Yeah.
As well.
Right.
Okay. Sure, no problem. I can do that. I think that's probably a case of negative filling, which is one of my favourite things to do. So obviously, if you've got a fill light, that means that you're adding light to the side of the face that is not lit, or is the opposite side to your key source. So in this case, I think when it comes to negative filling, that is taking away light from that. So if we're saying that we're keying from that left-hand side, I think that right-hand side that's there, it would be a good idea to block off that window. And I think that would do the majority of just eliminating light that is coming in from that direction. So whether or not that's popping a flag up on there, whether or not there's getting a bit of scrap blackout, or presumably if they're yoga instructors, they have many yoga mats that I might be able to just put up against that window instead.
Sandwich in place.
Sandwich. Yeah. And if he's there was a note about, what was the other note? It was about picking them out from the background.
Separated from the background.
Separated from the background. So I think a good case for separation is just bringing the subject, in this case our yoga people, away from that wall as much as we can do. So just bringing them forward and away from that wall and allowing that wall to fall off. But it's also a case of, establishing a backlight and picking them out from the background, allowing a sort of, because backlights inherently will, I don't want to say the word rim, but rim them.
It's true.
It is true.
It's true. It does rim them.
It does rim them.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a case of popping in something like that. So whether or not that is, popping a C-stand out of sight at the back and then popping something in, usually lamps that have a bit of reach to them, or Fresnel fixtures that you can spot in. In my case, I would probably just end up using, I don't know, an Aperture 60X or something like that I can focus in. Those are great. I mean, the output in terms of reach that they have is great.
I'm thinking about getting some of those. Just that extra, just creating a bit of an edge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're super lightweight as well. So in terms of, rigging, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how wide this wall is, but if you had like an auto pole or an extension pole or something, might be able to stretch that between the two, pop it on there. That would work nicely.
Where are you putting them in this room? Obviously, those chairs aren't super glued to that wall, by the way.
That's good news. That's great news. Where am I putting them? I don't know. I would probably leave at least 8 foot of distance from that wall, if not 12 foot. Ideally 12 foot, but if that's too far away, then that's too far away. But ideally, I do something like 8 foot, and then that means that looking at the length of the room, hopefully, like if I'm shooting a wide, let's say that we're shooting full frame on an FX6 or something, hopefully I would be able to stick a lens on it that's not too wide. So I'm not shooting my wides on, 18 mils or 20 mils or whatever. I'd prefer to shoot something 35 mil.
Even at 50 maybe.
Even at 50 maybe.
So
if
a tight
it's long
wide.
enough,
Yeah, well, just so I can, it's not necessarily tight. It's still a wide frame, but I'm getting that compression in terms of my field of view. That means that I can, lose things like the radiators, and maybe I don't want to see those windows, but I'm still allowing for a large...
Would that also be good for lighting fixtures?
Definitely, 100%, yeah. I mean, it means that I could potentially, if I'm booming something in, I can... so booming something in as in popping a stand just out of shot, but sticking something on top of that stand, which is extending into the shot, into the space, if that works.
Without being in the shot.
Without being in the shot.
So,
encroaching on their environment without being in the shot.
Yes.
Encroaching. It gives you the ability to do that as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point about how much space you have, and when you're a beginner, often you don't really think about focal lengths. You think of like, well, that's wide, so I can get everyone in the frame. But actually, a 50 mil really far back will still create that compression, which is much more like pleasing. I mean, it's pleasing image, whereas a wide shot is much more like unnatural. And depending on what you want to go for, because wide shots are very popular at the moment because they create like quite a interesting image, especially when they're pushed up really close. But yeah, I think that's something to pay attention to. Like, what does the focal length look like, depending on how close the camera is to the subject?
It's very much like a sort of intimacy question and how intimate you want to be. Because if you're shooting on a longer lens, so that's numerically more, so 100 mil as opposed to 50 mil is 100 mil is, I would say, less intimate than a 50 mil is, because a 50 mil. You will feel closer to that person, whereas in 100 mil you're going to feel further away from that person. It's the kind of like looking through binoculars effect, isn't it?
And I'd imagine that you want it to look aesthetically pleasing, so I think a shallow depth of field would like suit this sort of shoot, because you want it to be like kind of nice and, I don't know, arty a little bit.
Yeah.
But also you don't want it to be like a 200 mil where it's like you're sort of shooting them from behind
So
a bush or something.
if we had them in the middle of that room and you had two lights, like you said, cross-keying behind them.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Also acting as the rim light. And like your fill ratio would probably come from the room itself, right?
Right.
I'm thinking about the close-ups. So your key is also the other person's rim light, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you put a grid on those softboxes, then that will reduce the amount of spill. But but because of the nature of the room, and like what the focal length is and stuff, that won't necessarily be a bad thing.
And you do usually lose a bit of output as well if you're using a grid.
Yeah.
Which could potentially be a bad thing if you don't have headroom in your fixtures.
Yeah.
And then maybe those windows you could shoot, if you are shooting up on the close-ups, is there a possibility you could sort of shoot through those windows to add more depth? If the trees are tall enough and you're not shooting into sort of white cloud.
Yeah. I think, it makes sense for motivated light in terms of motivation. So, if you're seeing a window, realistically, the subject should be lit from that direction.
True, yeah.
So if you're seeing the window, and then it's a conversation of whether or not that makes it more of a pain in the arse or if it makes it less of a pain in the arse. Because if they're in nondescript yoga studio where you don't see a window, then you can dictate where that key source is going to come from wherever you want. As soon as you start seeing windows, that's when you have to go, okay, does this look realistic? Otherwise, you get a little bit of, you wouldn't stick someone in front of a window and then key them from the opposite side.
You'd be surprised, but yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Please don't do that. I'll find you.
It's the first thing, it's one of the first things that you can learn is like, if the light is hitting them, if there's a window over there and it's hitting them that way, put the light that way. And then the shadow is natural. You don't want to unless you want to do a beauty shot, you don't want to, you can use that shadow, as you were saying about negative fill, you can kind of shape the light.
It's not necessarily a case, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking, oh, if the window's there, that means that I have to do what the window's doing. Yeah. That's not necessarily the case. Like if you're on a wide and you don't have any power to change anything about it, then sure, let the window do what the window wants to do. But as soon as you come in for a close-up, you have the ability to then, amalgamate what that window is doing. Or we say window, but this could be like any practical light source. So, if let's say that there was a lamp in the middle of the table, we would be lit by that, so it wouldn't make sense to stick a daylight fixture up top. It would be a complete
campfire or something.
Exactly.
It wouldn't make sense to have light from behind them.
But it's a case of if you're not seeing that light source, if we're thinking about something sequentially, like you've got your wide and you've got your close up. So let's say it was a campfire and there's a campfire in the middle, then it's a case of we see that in the wide, so we let that do what it's doing. But if we want to then amalgamate it when we're on a close-up and we don't see it, that's allowed. That's totally allowed. You don't have to bend the knee to the
physically accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can amalgamate.
Does it
I like
look
the word
good?
amalgamate.
Yeah, amalgamate.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Ooh.
Such a good question.
Yeah, it's an amalgam of definitions. I think that's
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
An amalgamation of.
It's a word.
meaning.
It's very much a word that
Amalgamates.
is sort of like falsely onomatopoeic in the sense of if you were to put the word amalgamate, it's like amalgamate. Do you know what I mean?
It's also a very distracting word, I think.
Okay, that was a good deep dive. What did you think?
What does the producer think? He's looking over my shoulder, looking at the monitor.
Oh, they love it, mate.
Oh.
My one's just on his
I think
phone
he might
texting
love-
outside.
I might love yours.
Mine's like just on his vape, texting outside.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He's like, oh, to be honest, mate, I don't care.
What time's lunch?
Yeah, but what time's lunch?
Yeah.
Just a quick one on sound. What are we doing? We're going to boom it. We're going to mic them up and hide the mics.
It's not my department.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's difficult. It depends what they're wearing. If they're like yoga, full-on yoga outfits, it might be like the lav mic would have to be hidden, and I think maybe it would be like I don't know. Maybe I'd hire a female. Well, actually, I mean, I'm assuming that they're female. I apologise
They are.
to the
They're
internet.
middle-aged females.
Okay, they're middle-aged females. So
What are their names? What's that-
Florine
Ooh.
and Doreen.
Fluorine.
as in like the toothpaste.
Is that a name? I don't know.
Fluorine. It's a mixture between fluorine and like
chlorine. It's like toothpaste that
It's
kills you.
flora and chlorine, yeah.
It's terrible.
Florine and Doreen.
Yeah.
Both
It's like a chemical
chlorine.
weapon. Yeah, so
Got to be at
fluorine.
least 70 with names.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Yeah, they had very old parents when they were born. So, so I think, yeah, I would say conceal a lav mic, and it might require taping to them, especially if they're wearing like, you know, stereotypical yoga outfits. And then probably just boom above both of them.
Okay.
Mix wise, it's definitely going to be more loud than it is boom. Just
Yeah.
because looking at that room, that's going to be
Echoey.
bouncing
Yeah.
sound out
Yeah.
like a mad
Yeah.
thing.
I think unprofessionally, I always do both.
Yeah.
In the sense that, well, if one of them sounds bad, at least I can try and fix the boom mic
Yeah.
if it's echoey. Whereas, like, if you just don't have a boom mic, you don't have that option.
An alternative possibly could be, depending on obviously client perspective and, you know, subject perspective. If it's an instructional video on how to do yoga, you might just be able to do a little, like, you know, actual headset thing that they're wearing in terms of something like that. Because, you know, if you're watching any Peloton or workout video or anything like that, they're always wearing one of those things.
Yeah,
It's-
So that's
But if you're looking for something that's a bit more chakra and a bit more hidden and slightly more, we can hear them, but we can't see where we can hear them, and that's because
Interesting.
our mind's eye are linking with the
See,
others.
That's why there's so many conspiracy theorists online, because it's all lies, concealment, you know.
You can see the mics; they're here.
Yeah. You know
That's
that
why
we're
you
telling
can
you
hear
truth.
us.
We're
Yeah.
truly authentic.
yeah.
Unless you're just listening, in which case,
Who knows?
where are we?
Who are we?
Cool. So we've ticked that off. I think we've ticked everything off in this
Cool.
wonderful village hall.
Are like the listeners going to like vote on who had the best answer?
I think they should.
Because I think I know who probably won that, to be honest. But,
Martin.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Martin always
Yeah.
wins.
Well, originally the idea was it's to be slightly competitive, but
Yeah. Hopefully,
Well,
there's
we've
little
gone
nuggets
down the
that people
more
can take.
conversational route.
Yeah.
But
On the next episode,
maybe on
we'll
the
go
next episode.
Full beans competitive. Who would
Is it
you
gonna be like-
hire?
Yeah.
Who would you give your
Yeah, yeah.
money to?
It's gonna be a wrestling match in the
Yeah.
next situation. Yeah.
That brings us to the end. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let's go with you,
Thank
James.
you,
Where
yeah.
can people find you and your
Ooh.
services? Give us your handles, etc.
Okay, you can find me at Travis Digital on Instagram. I am, or my website, travisdigital.co.uk, and I'm sure you'll track me down.
That's brand amalgamation. That
Yeah.
is having the
James
same.
Travis Digital,
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Frankie boy.
I'm on Instagram, Frank_Hammond at Frank. No, not the at the end.
Okay.
That's at the start. I just don't want to
Right.
confuse anyone.
Yeah.
Or you can find me on other platforms such as TikTok, And I think that's the only other one. I think I'm on YouTube as well, probably. I don't know, I haven't uploaded anything yet, but I probably will at some point. That's also just Frank Hammond. And then my website is www.cflkit.com, where you can find our kit list and all of our wet and dry hire services.
Lovely,
Podcast
lovely.
voice.
I shall be in touch soon.
Yeah.
Please do.
I'm interested in that 600 F600.
F600 buy. Go
Cool.
lead. Go docs.
Nice. I'll think about that.
Spice words.
Yeah.
Spice words.
Spice words.
And thank you, listening at home or watching at home, or you might not be at home, you might be at work, you might be on a train, you might be on the toilet, you might be in
Good
a
Lord.
queue
You
of
might be in a yoga
some
studio.
sorts.
You might
And you
literally
might-
be listening right now and thinking, how the hell do I like this yoga studio?
Yeah, they might be on exactly the same job, freaking out, just
Or
about
on
to
their
go
way
in.
to said job.
Oh, yeah.
But now we've given them clear advice and they have no excuses, do they,
No.
to do a wonderful job for the client.
Good luck.
About
just-
as clear as the mind's eye will be after you finish this job
Interesting.
filming yoga.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've opened their third eye.
Amalgamation.
Amalgamation.
Just the most important thing, they need to go to Poundland around the corner and get
Yep.
those candles.
That's key.
100%.
Everything else
Can't
will take care of
recommend it enough.
itself.
That's
Yep.
key. 1200D. Nope.
Who cares?
Poundland candle.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you guys. We will see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, subscribe, or leave a review, whichever platform you're watching or listening on. If you've got any thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes, then drop me a comment below or email me at martin@shotandstrungfilms.com. I'll catch you on the next episode where I'll be back with 2 more guests filming an Airbnb property tour walkthrough. Easy? Nope. Entertaining? Definitely.